Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flock Talk. I'm Erin Morgan.
And I'm Jordan Sloggett.
And we work for the farmer members of the Ontario Sheep Farmers Organization.
This week we are discussing sheep butchery with Brent Herrington from the Canadian Butchery Team.
Welcome, Brent. Thanks for joining us on Flock Talk.
Brent, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Absolutely. First and foremost, guys, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to come on here and speak with the people who provide the product that make my life easy. Wonderful Ontario sheep is something I sell in my store with great pride. My name is Brent Herrington. I'm owner-operator of Herrington's Quality Butchers in the heart of beautiful downtown Port Perry. And this fall, we will be celebrating our 25th anniversary of having our store.
Congratulations. Mm-hmm. So how does the role of a butcher impact the quality and marketability of the lamb meat and your products?
Well, the secret to having a wonderful display in your counter is to start off with good Ontario lamb. I've been really lucky with a lot of local lamb farmers here and a couple local provincially licensed abattoirs that I use to process that lamb so that I can sell it in my store. And the ability to market it in a manner that is easy for a consumer to cook. The wonderful product and having someone behind it who can explain what to do and being able to butcher it properly so that it looks really appetizing. I've always said to my customers that you eat with your eyes before you actually eat with your mouth, your eyes and your nose before you eat with your mouth. So if it looks wonderfully appealing, and somebody who has the ability to put the finer tuning on butchering really takes it to the next level in eye appeal.
Excellent.
What are some of the current trends in the butchery and the consumption of lamb meat in Canada? And how do you think Ontario sheep farmers might be able to capitalize on some of those trends?
One of the trends that I would say that affects the Ontario lamb the most is probably one that might be a little bit negative, the lack of proper butchering. So there's not a lot of people out there that are able to take a lamb and make it into something that you really would want to entertain and have really good company over for dinner. And sometimes there's just not that ability to put a polished edge on a really good product. The Ontario lamb that we sell in our stores is second to none. I absolutely love it. And when you get people in the store, one of the best trends that we can have is an educated butcher, an educated employee, or people who support your local butcher by coming in and having a conversation and getting a product that is going to be successful for your dinner. So a good trend there is just going to a local butcher and finding educated people to help you with your meal. Even if you don't have a lot of education yourself, a good butcher should be able to give you a good product and good confidence to create a good meal. Staying with grilling, smoking and slow cooking. Smoking is huge, and lamb, especially lamb shoulder done on the smoker, just absolutely incredible. So that's another big trend that a lot of people go toward.
Yeah, that's huge. So when you were talking about the difference between somebody who knows how to butcher lamb and somebody who isn't as skilled as you are in butchering lamb, can you tell us what the difference in that product quality would be? Like what's the outcome on the shelf?
The outcome on the shelf, I think for a lot of places that do butchering, and I did start my career in an actual abattoir, time is money. And when you need to be able to get product done as fast as you can, sometimes you just don't do things that set it aside from being perfect. A good example being when you cut chops on a bandsaw, sometimes there's a bit of bone dust on there, a little dust residue left over from the bandsaw blade. And at a packing house or somewhere like that where they're just going to package it up and you're not really going to see it, they won't take the time to clean it properly. Where in a retail store like ours, we'll clean it up so that it looks as magnificent, nice, even cut chops. We want steaks, not missteaks. We want even bits of fat around the outside edge. Just little things like when we're Frenching a rack of lamb, we use a little knife and clean all of the meat off the bones. You want them just spick and span and looking fantastic. And that's sometimes something that comes with retail butchery as opposed to other butchery.
Thank you for that. And then in your store, do you sell both a light lamb and a heavy lamb? Do you sell like mostly heavy lambs or?
Majority of the lamb that I'm looking for are good sized breaking lambs, probably 45 to 55 pound carcass.
Okay.
So I would probably put 10 live, I would guess. Those are the ones I'm looking for. The lambs that I get consistently, even taking it back one step, for me, it is extremely important to build the relationship with A, the farmer, and B, the abattoir. And once that's done successfully, I can just call somebody and say, you know what, I need a couple lambs, and I can, in good faith, know they're going to ship me a really good quality lamb. Something that's got a beautiful flat back on it, a wonderful little waggle when it's alive in the brisket part. So I know that it's got lots of fat on there. The color is going to be beautiful. They've been treated properly and raised ethically. And for me, it's very important as well that the trip to the slaughterhouse, albeit inevitable, doesn't necessarily need to be unpleasant. It needs to be quick. It needs to be, in my opinion, it is an extremely important step that should not be overlooked and that needs to be done humanely and properly.
And when you talk about fat, I know there's a fine line between just the right amount and too much. So how much fat are you looking for on a carcass?
It's funny because I prefer the yo lambs as most retail butchers works. I find they've got a little bit more even white colored fat, a little bit through marble throughout the meat. Grading of lambs is something I'm familiar with, but I'm not really up on it. I know that I've had some that have been on the high end of the grading scale, and it's a little bit too much bark. It's a little bit too wasty. It doesn't yield very well from a retail standpoint. It's hard to find that really good, even, consistent. And it's just about impossible to see what a carcass is going to look like when it's still alive. So that's where I put a lot of my faith in on good Ontario farmers and good Ontario abattoirs.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Brent, you kind of walked through a little bit about this before, but could you explain some of the essential cutting techniques that you use for lamb meat and how those techniques influence the final product?
One of the biggest things for me earlier when I was speaking about lamb chops and having a little bit of bone dust on there and using a bandsaw, that's one thing I try to avoid to do, especially with lamb. I try to do as much of the whole lamb using just a knife. It is something that I've learned from friends that do a lot more lamb in Australia and New Zealand. They've taught me some tricks, some wonderful little things over the years. And it makes a huge difference because you don't have that aforementioned bone dust, but you don't have the heat from the blade either. Scraping bones properly, Frenching things and different things, just these little tricks of the trade that, that just makes it that much better.
So we saw your tricks of the trade at our convention last year. Thank you very much for that demonstration. And
probably the best demos I've ever done. I have to tell you, I've never felt so welcomed and enjoyed myself so much. So that was amazing.
Well, we loved having you, and holy smokes, did that display look delicious at the end, especially the stuff that you, put all that nice seasoning on the inside. And so can you tell us a little bit about the most popular cuts with your consumers? Like, what are people looking for? Are they looking for those value-added products that you prepared for us at convention?
Value-added products is a wonderful tool in order for me to boost my profit margin. It also makes it a little bit easier for consumers to deal with the product. So they're huge. Ease of cooking is probably the number one thing that I try to go for. Center loin chops, ribs, racks. Some people like to roast a leg of lamb. For me, the money is to be made on all that other cuts that people don't necessarily want. Depending on the season, a shoulder's amazing, especially if you love a good curry. Lamb curried shoulder is probably one of my favorite meals. Using all that trim and using it effectively, creating a really good sausage. You can travel the world to find good lamb sausage. We stick with the traditional English style banger. It's very mild, smooth, sagey. It's got a little hint of rosemary in it. Some of the Spanish stuff like a merguez, getting into a kofta or something like that. So using the world as your influence to help market that lamb and create ease of cooking for customers is definitely the best way to go about it.
I see a cookbook in your future. Everything that you showed us just looked amazing.
Brent, would you be able to provide an overview of the Canadian Butchery Team and like where you compete and how that works?
Amazing. I'm happy to promote the World Butcher Challenge as a whole. And I've been lucky enough to win Ontario's Finest Butcher in 2019, which earned me a seat on Butchery Team Canada. 6 Canadians have 3.5 hours to complete half a beef, half a pig, a whole lamb, and 5 chickens. And that's from full carcass to full value-added retail display. And I've got to tell you, in my 33 years of butchering, is the hardest thing that I have ever had to do. It has given me a renewed passion for what I do. I have met incredible people around the world. And I actually have a practice this weekend coming, and I'm excited to see my teammates from across Canada to do what I do every day, because I just love to do it so much that I actually do it as a hobby in my spare time. So in that time period, all these countries will be competing at the same time and creating displays. The music is going, the lights are going, there's cameras, there's judges, there's teammates, and it's absolute chaos. And I thrive in the chaos. A year ago, this past September, we were in Sacramento, California, and that was the first time Canada was ever lucky enough to have a team to enter into the World Butcher Challenge. And we didn't fare as well as I'd hoped, but let me tell you, I learned more in one weekend than I've ever learned in my life from my industry perspective. Made me realize just how much butchering is not a trade in North America, but it should be, and how other countries put a lot of stock in butchers. There's anything wrong. It's just the Western civilization, meat is an industry, and it's a craft in a lot of other parts of the world. So the emphasis on World Butchery, and Team Canada in general is to put the craft back into the whole thing. Our next competition is coming up this March. I'm lucky enough to be able to go to Paris, France, and so excited to be able to take what I learned in the last time and apply it to our practices and do our best to polish our skills to create something that we can proudly represent our country with.
So, Brent, how do we get more people into butchering?
Butchering is something that's actually really starting to take a light, much like chefs have done in the last number of years. So I think what we're trying to do with the World Butcher Challenge and myself as a whole is to make butchering sexy. Make it so that these kids in school want to do it. It needs to be a certified trade. It needs to be something that post-secondary pushes as an option. I've done some little bit of work at the Skills Canada trade shows in Toronto through high schools and such. I've done some work with my high schools. I currently have a co-op student right now. I am a big advocate of the co-op program, whereas that's where I started in the whole thing. Once again, for me, childhood memories, I remember going to the butcher shop with my parents, and that's something that, as cliche as it sounds, something that's taught. Shopping habits are taught, teaching future generations why butchers are better. And if you don't know the answer, go ask your butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, what sorts of things do you think, or would you suggest that our sheep farmer listeners could do if they, they're sold by what you're selling here? Like they want to get involved and they want to support their local butcher and they want to get educational resources out there. How would you suggest they direct their time and energy?
It doesn't sound like I'm beating a drum over and over and over again, but even for local sheep farmers to support their local butcher, and not necessarily for purchasing lamb, but for the other proteins that they need, and then building that relationship and maybe offering some product to the local farmer. I have purchased product from customers in the past, but once again, I build that faith, and once that faith happens, it's a long-standing relationship. Even finding good craft butchers that are able to market their product if they're selling it themselves. Packaging is essential. Labeling is essential. And just finding somebody who is clearly as passionate about butchery as the farmer is about raising good quality lamb.
Amazing. So what are the future opportunities and challenges in the industry? Where are we going from here? Where should our farmers be setting their sights when they're looking at maybe expanding their flock or creating opportunities for their farm?
One of the troubles I have around here is finding a good provincial slaughterhouse to be able to process good local Ontario lamb for my store. They're dropping like flies. There needs to be some support from them, and that goes on many different levels. And especially from the farmers, find your good abattoir that's near you, build that relationship, use them consistently, and I would hope that that butcher would be able to successfully respond to feedback. I like having constructive criticism, but I feel that if people are just complaining and not offering solutions, then they're still part of the problem. Mm-hmm. So I like, as a butcher, to be able to have feedback. So if something went to the butcher shop and you weren't happy with what it was done, being able to say, do it again and say, last time this happened, but I would really like to try something different. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, maybe you're not at the right spot. It might take a little trial and error, but I think the future is to support local, to create hype around a really good product and keeping it as close to home as we possibly can.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And Brent, if people want to find you and follow the Canadian Butchery Team, how do they do that?
The competition itself has been on YouTube. I know this one coming up in Paris. Paris has promised a pretty big show. And the last one in the United States, I've got to tell you, it was pretty big. So if Paris thinks they're going to top that, they got some work cut out for them. But definitely YouTube is the way to do it. Above and beyond all of the YouTube stuff, Instagram is huge. And I know that's probably a lot of it.
And how about your business?
My business, Instagram, I'm big on Instagram. It's at Brent Herrington, and Herrington is H-E, Herrington. Excellent. And Facebook, we do a lot of Herrington's Quality Butchers.
Amazing.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Brent. We really appreciate you taking time from your very busy day to chat with us today. Thanks so much.
Every chance I get to promote not only my store, but my industry and my trade and my love for it all, I'm eager to do so. So thank you guys for this blessed opportunity.
Well, thanks for being such an amazing advocate for our industry. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Join us next Wednesday for our education-themed interview with Anita O'Brien from Ontario Sheep Farmers, who will update us on the next Master Shepherd's course and the other educational offerings at OSF. Hey, Jordan, what's coming up on the Ontario Sheep Farmers calendar?
We are developing 2 promotional recipe videos to boost Ontario lamb sales at 2 Longo's grocery locations in the Greater Toronto area. This campaign will aim to attract specific target audiences that value high-quality food and are willing to invest in premium culinary experiences. This campaign is aimed to run from July 15th to the middle of August, and we will keep you updated as to how it goes. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe through your podcast app to receive alerts for future episodes, and please share our podcast with your friends.
For more Ontario Sheep Farmers content, follow us on social media at Ontario Sheep Farmers on Instagram and Facebook, at Ontario Sheep on X, and visit our website at ontariosheep.org.